All right, so get ready because we are diving into London today.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's like you've given us all your travel plans and said, help me make the most of this trip.
Exactly. We've got articles, notes.
Oh, and this really cool newsletter called Love to Visit London. Have you seen this one?
I have, yeah.
It's great.
It's so enthusiastic.
It really is. Like they just love their city.
Yeah. And it really feels like it's about seeing London like a local.
Mm-hmm. Not just the touristy stuff.
So that's what we're doing today. Uncovering hidden gems and those must-have experiences.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we're talking everything from Buckingham Palace,
Of course. Gotta have the classics.
obviously, but also some places I'd never even heard of before reading this, like Tower Hamlets.
Oh, yeah, Tower Hamlets is cool.
And get this, we might even be spending a night at the zoo.
Whoa. Okay, that I'm intrigued by.
Right. So much to cover. But let's start with Buckingham Palace.
Makes sense. It's like the icon of London.
Yeah, the newsletter lays it all out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the monarch's residence. It's where they have celebrations. And of course, the changing the guard.
Oh, yeah. That's a must-see. But I feel like there's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. Buckingham Palace. It's more than just a building. It's a symbol of the monarchy, like the whole history of it.
Yeah, all those royal events, state visits, even just those balcony appearances. It's all happening there.
Exactly. It's this constant thing, even as everything else changes around it.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. And speaking of treasures, the newsletter mentions something about the Queen's jewels being on display there.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine?
I mean, it's not even just the jewels themselves,
Right.
right? It's the history behind them.
Yeah.
Like each one represents a different monarch or event.
Ooh, some of them probably have some juicy stories too.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Definitely some royal scandals in there somewhere.
Okay, I am adding the Queen's Jewel Vault to my itinerary for sure.
Good choice.
Now let's talk about this Tower Hamlets place. You said you were familiar with it?
Yeah, I am. It's in East London, and it's really interesting. It's got this mix of history, different cultures, architecture,
So it's not just like one thing.
right? It's a really unique blend.
Yeah.
You've got remnants of the old maritime stuff next to art galleries and trendy cafes.
Oh, wow. So it's modern too.
Very much so.
I see the newsletter also mentions the Tower of London, which I guess everyone knows,
Of course, can't miss that.
and the Brick Lane markets. What are those like?
Oh, they're amazing. It's like this explosion of sights and smells, and you can find anything there.
Ooh, that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, and it's because of where Tower Hamlets is.
Yeah.
Right? It's right on the Thames, which has always been this gateway to the world.
Ah, so that's why it's so diverse.
Exactly. Over the centuries, all these different groups have come through there and brought their culture with them. And it's also there in the food and the music and everything.
I'm telling you, I might skip the palace and go straight to Tower Hamlets.
Uh-huh. I mean, you got to see both. But I get it. It's a special place.
Maybe I can do both. Oh, speaking of seeing London from different angles, the newsletter mentioned something called a champagne experience at the London Eye.
Hmm.
Is that like a tourist trap, or is it actually cool?
Well, think about it. You're sipping champagne as you slowly go up above the city.
Yeah.
You get these panoramic views of Big Ben Parliament,
Okay, yeah. When you put it like that, it sounds pretty amazing.
especially at sunset.
Super romantic.
Very much so.
Okay, you convinced me. But hold on, because the newsletter mentions something even crazier.
Okay, what is it?
You can stay overnight at the zoo.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously, I'm not kidding.
Wow, that is next level.
Right, imagine falling asleep to the sounds of lions roaring.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I bet it's so peaceful at night, too.
Like you escaped the city, but you're still right there.
It's like a whole different world.
Okay, sleepover at the zoo is going on the list. But let's move on from animals to something else magical Christmas in London.
Ah, yes. The newsletter specifically mentioned Covent Garden for that.
Yeah, it's like in the heart of the West End, right?
Like their version of Broadway.
So all the theaters and shows.
Exactly.
I'm picturing cobblestone streets, twinkling lights, that whole Christmas smell.
Oh, yeah. Covent Garden is already really lively, but at Christmas, it's like a winter wonderland.
Can you imagine all the decorations and the music and everything?
It's really something else.
All right, before we get too carried away with Christmas, let's touch on a few other things from the newsletter.
Okay, what else did you find?
Well, in the from social media section, they mention those classic red telephone booths in Covent Garden.
Oh, yeah. Those are iconic.
Gotta get a picture with those.
Definitely. It's
Yeah.
a must-do.
What about food? Any recommendations there?
They mentioned something called homemade Cornish pasties.
What are those?
They're these hand pies filled with meat potatoes, sometimes vegetables.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, they originated in Cornwall, which
Mm.
is in southwest England.
I've never tried those.
You should. They're delicious.
Okay, Cornish pasties added to the food list.
Good choice.
Oh, and remember those Queen's jewels we talked about?
Mm-hmm.
The newsletter had that in the extra section, almost like a little bonus.
Yeah. Maybe we should dive into those a little more in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, good idea. I feel like we've covered so much already.
We have, from palaces to boroughs to...
Oh, and the zoo.
Right, the zoo.
Yeah.
I think our listeners need a moment to process all this.
Yeah, for sure. But stick around. We've got more London adventures coming up in just a bit.
Welcome back. You ready for more London?
Always. What's next?
Well, remember those Queen's jewels we were talking about?
Yeah, those sounded incredible.
We were just scratching the surface. It's not just some sparkly trinkets. We're talking serious historic bling.
Like what?
Crowns, tiaras, necklaces dripping with diamonds, pieces worn by some of the most famous people in British history.
Wow, imagine the stories behind those things.
Right. Like, did Queen Victoria wear this to her coronation? Or was this a gift from some foreign king? It's mind-blowing.
It's like you're holding a piece of history.
Exactly. And we almost just skipped over it.
I know. Crazy to think how many treasures are probably hidden all over London.
Definitely. Makes you want to go on a treasure hunt.
For sure. Okay, but let's get back to that zoo sleepover. I'm still trying to picture myself falling asleep with lions roaring in the background.
The newsletter said it was a night's escape from the bustle of London, without even leaving the city.
Yeah, I love that. It's like you're in another world, but you're still right there.
And I bet it's so peaceful at night without all the crowds.
I wonder what the lodging is like.
Good question. Do they have fancy tents or something?
Right, because I'm down for adventure, but I do need a comfy bed.
The newsletter doesn't say. But knowing London Zoo,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they have options.
Yeah, probably everything from cabins to glamping to who knows what.
It is London, after all.
True.
Yeah.
Maybe we can request a tent by the penguins.
Now, that would be cute, waking up to a penguin parade.
Speaking of things we love, let's get back to Tower Hamlets. What was your favorite part about it?
You know what stood out to me? The diversity. Like, you can walk past a pub that's been there for centuries.
Right, filled with old sailors.
Exactly.
Well,
And then, bam, you turn a corner, and it's a Bangladeshi restaurant.
or some super modern art gallery.
It's like a little snapshot of all of London.
And the architecture, too. You got medieval buildings next to skyscrapers.
That's what I love about London. It's like this mashup of different eras.
And it all works somehow.
It does. Oh, and we can't forget about Brick Lane.
The markets, right?
Yeah, it's a total sensory overload. You've
Mhm.
got food from all over the world, vintage clothes, antiques.
I can't wait to get lost in there.
Me too. Okay, so we've got Buckingham Palace, Tower Hamlets, the zoo.
It's shaping up to be quite the trip.
It is, but there's still more.
Hmm?
Let's talk about Covent Garden.
Hi. Christmas Wonderland.
Exactly. But remember, the newsletter mentioned a couple other places too, Seven Dials and Neal's Yard.
Oh, yeah. What are those like?
Well, Seven Dials is this crazy intersection where seven streets meet.
Wow, I'm already confused.
It's kind of a maze, but in a good way.
Mm.
There are all these independent shops and cafes, and suddenly it's like this explosion of color. It's
Yeah.
this tiny courtyard with brightly painted buildings and flowers everywhere.
Wow. That sounds like something out of a movie.
It kind of is. It's super peaceful, too, like a hidden oasis.
What kind of shops are there?
They have everything from organic skincare to jewelry to vegetarian food.
Okay, I'm sold. Neal's Yard is definitely going on the list.
Good choice.
Yeah.
And while we're in the area, we have to try those Cornish pasties.
Yes! The newsletter made them sound so good.
Imagine you've just seen a show.
And you're starving.
Exactly. And you find this little bakery with the most amazing smells coming out of it.
Oh, man, stop. I'm getting hungry.
That's where you'll find the perfect Cornish pasty.
But how do I know it's a good one?
Best advice. Look for the places that are packed with locals.
That's a good tip. Okay, so far we've got the Queen's Jewels, a zoo sleepover Covent Garden with all its hidden gems.
And delicious Cornish pasties.
What else do we absolutely need to do?
Well, we can't forget about those red telephone booths.
Right, the classic photo op.
It wouldn't be a trip to London without it.
Yeah. I'm already picturing the Instagram post.
So what are you most excited about?
Honestly, everything. But I think what gets me is the contrast. Like, you have all this history,
Yeah.
and then right next to it, you've got super modern stuff.
It's like this city is always changing.
But it still keeps its old charm.
Exactly. It's a unique place.
I can't wait to see it all myself.
Okay.
But before we get carried away, there's still one more part to this deep dive.
Don't worry, we're not done with London just yet.
All right, we're back for round 3 of our London deep dive.
And ready to wrap things up.
You know what I've been thinking? We've talked about all these amazing places.
Right, Buckingham Palace, Tower, Hamlets, Covent Garden.
Yeah, but it's more than just the places themselves.
What do you mean?
It's about how they all fit together. Like, it's not just a list of things to see.
I see what you're saying. Like, each place adds to the overall experience.
Exactly. You can go from a street that's like straight out of a history book
Yeah.
and then turn a corner and suddenly it's all modern and trendy.
That's what I love about London. It's constantly evolving.
But it still holds on to its past.
It's a really cool mix. You can literally see the city's history in the buildings, the food, everything.
Speaking of history, I'm definitely hitting up some museums.
Of course. The British Museum, the Tate Modern.
All of them. They're all on my list.
There's so much to see.
I know. And that's the thing about London. You should go back a million times and you'd still find new things.
It's a city that keeps on giving.
Exactly. So even though we've uncovered all these amazing spots in our deep dive,
Yeah,
it's really just a starting point for your own exploration.
I like that. It's like we're giving you the tool.
And then you can go create your own adventure.
Exactly. Whether you're into history or food or art or whatever, London has something for everyone.
That's what makes it such a great travel destination, I think.
It is. No matter who you are, you're bound to fall in love with London.
Okay, so to our listener, as you get ready for your trip,
Yeah.
just remember one thing. Don't be afraid to explore.
And get off the beaten path.
Yes, that's where the real magic happens.
Exactly. And most importantly, have fun.
That's what it's all about. Creating memories, trying new things.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, I think that about wraps up our London deep dive.
Yeah. It's been a blast.
We've covered a lot.
We have. But this is just the beginning for you.
Exactly. Now it's your turn to discover the magic of London for yourself.
So get out there, explore the city, and have an amazing time.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.